Now, to go back to the initial idea that I wanted to start with, before even attempting to comprehend a mystical experience, it can be very helpful to take a moment to gather, what do you think a mystical experience is going to be like? What do you think it's going to be like? So let's just take a moment, all of us together, and we'll even close our eyes. And if you've experienced something that you imagine to be mystical, that's okay. You can use that memory. But close your eyes. And for you, if you could experience a mystical state, we'll even break it down. Let's start with your mind. So notice how your mind feels right now. Notice any thoughts, any ideas. And remember, your mind, in a way, is kind of how you feel about things, what you like, what you don't like, your preferences. So right now, feeling the mind as it is, if you were in a mystical state, what do you imagine, how would the mind be different? And break it down, how would it feel different? How would it feel different? What kind of thoughts do you gather would be present in the mind during a mystical experience? Would you be worried about anything in particular? Would you be thinking about anything in particular? Let's get a sense of it. What do you imagine it would be like? And then bring your attention to your heart. By your heart, I do mean the center of your chest, but I also mean your normal default setting of how you feel, your emotional nature. So if you were experiencing a mystical state, what would your heart, how would it respond compared to what it's like right now? What would the difference be? How would you feel, so you're having a mystical experience. How would you feel about the life that you're living, the life around you, the people around you, the situations you're in, the general field of your life experience? If you were in a mystical state, what do you imagine the difference would be? How would you respond differently? Would you even respond at all? Okay, so those of you who happen to have a keyboard in front of you who aren't on your phone, if you don't mind, in the chat box, just write out some of the major differences in those wonderings, the major differences that you might have imagined a mystical state to present to you. And as they pop up, if they pop up, we'll speak to them. So everything is as it should be, in a sense that it is all for my growth and development. I didn't find any difference other than various degrees of intensity. Good. I'd lose all the fears, attachments, etc., and just be free. A sense of being completely absorbed in the divine, where all thoughts fade away, complete peace. Heart would be open, not trying to control everything. Would just see my life as it is. My identity would shift in a way that stress would roll off. I have a very skeptical mind, and there's a part of me doubting no matter how small. So the difference would be that I would know there would be no doubt. Stilling of all vrittis. Yeah. Loving what is, complete in rapture. Equanimity, total clarity. Overwhelming joy. Okay. Expansive, clear. Good. So what you can do, just like we've been paying attention to imagine if I was with someone who is enlightened and clear, what would that feel like? So in your own meditation process, what you can do is before you go sit and meditate, and again, this assumes that you've got some time, that you're not just doing it as a chore or an exercise you have to crank through and get done before you move on to the next thing. But if you can stop and do what we just did here, feel the heart, feel the mind, feel the space around you, imagine your life, and contemplate, if I was in a mystical state, if I was having a mystical experience, how would I feel? And then just begin imagining that that is the experience. And then meditate from that experience. And you'll find that if you start there, if you put yourself in that space, in that mindset, when you meditate, you are more likely to move into what you would call an authentic mystical experience. And the reason I say authentic is because in this particular exercise, you really were using your mind to imagine. And the mystical experience doesn't do much with the mind. It lifts you above the mind. But as always, you can use the mind to help give you a strong foundation.